Ranking the best villains of all times, I don't really think can be done in a normal tier list, because I think for an antagonist to be memorable and considered evil, there's multiple criterias that elevate the antagonist's overall aura. For example, two antagonists that we'll be looking at is Joffrey Baratheon and Tywin Lannister. Both in the same series are top competitors for best villains of all time, though so different in the way they handle themselves. I think Joffrey Baratheon is the textbook example of the generic villain, and not generic in the bad sense of the word. We see a coddled child come to undeserved power when his father dies and he becomes the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Joffrey is the toxic part of masculinity, where even though we see his sadistic side, where we see him get enjoyment in the pain of others, where we see him go even further is whenever there's an audience. This is seen from the very first episode, where we see him try to impress Sansa Stark by challenging the butcher's boy to a fight, where he was armed and the butcher's boy had a stick that he immediately dropped when he sees the prince, knowing what could be the outcome of both win or loss. Here we see Joffrey's inability to back down and his desire for chaos. This to me is almost a scene-for-scene comparison with a Ned Stark episode, where he's trying to impress Sansa by getting the most honorable man to kneel to him. I think that it wasn't even his intention to kill Ned Stark, but seeing the crowd cheer for him, his darkest side comes forward. From that point on, other than that one scene where he kills that girl that Tyrion sends to him in his chamber, all of his scenes are where he's in front of a crowd humiliating someone, be that Tyrion, Sansa, or others. But in analyzing the character, he was clearly blood hungry. The war was not what he wanted. What he wanted was domination and for everyone to know that he is the king.
I am the king!
I would rank him as a destructive force and a view into the most toxic masculine traits ever imagined and written. I think the character and the actor playing it were such a perfect representation of this type of evil. Now it's time to talk about no other than the only man that even King Joffrey answers to. And I say King Joffrey intentionally because before Joffrey was a king, there was one other character who would school Joffrey constantly.
I can't stand the wailing of women.
I'm telling Mother.
Do you understand?
You can't.
You're talking to a king!
And now I've struck a king.
Okay, maybe he did it a few times even after he became a king. Out of all of the characters in this list, Tywin Lannister is one of my favorites. From the first scene, we see him. His presence is unmatched.
This one's a girl, you idiot.
We see him in a war tent, butchering a stag as a subtle foreshadowing for House Baratheon, since their house sigil is the stag. Tywin talking to Jaime but not even looking at him to indicate that his main attention is on the bigger picture. Something that can even be seen in a deleted scene of him and Master Pycelle talking. Tywin again keeping his attention on the bigger picture, seen by him fishing and shortly after sieging Riverrun, whose sigil is the black fish.
I'll have them for supper.
Him expressing the disappointment in his children makes him more relatable. In the same scene where he tells Jaime that he shouldn't concern himself with the opinion of others, or in his words, the lion does not concern himself with the opinion of sheep, schools Jaime on the importance of the family name.
Before long I'll be dead, and you, and your brother, and your sister, and all of her children. All of us dead, all of us rotting in the ground. It's the family name that lives on. It's all that lives on.
So from this, we see that in his eyes, Tywin sees himself as a good guy, trying to keep the family name going. Though throughout the series, we get to see his true colors and to what means he is able to go for the family name to survive.
Perhaps we'd profit from some sleep.
As I think you would, Reginald. And because you're my cousin, I might even let you wake from that sleep.
My favorite scenes of Tywin are any scenes of Tywin and Joffrey together. The two are exact mirror opposites of each other. One enjoys chaos for the sake of chaos, and the other clearly does not care for it. He knows what must be done for the betterment of the family, and will get it at any cost. The early seasons of Game of Thrones were not rushed like later seasons. Characters were able to have long talks with each other and plot their actions. But still, even in the early seasons, we never see Tywin actually plot. So his actions come as a surprise to even the audience. For example, the Siege of King's Landing, where Tywin shows up at the last moment, surprised the viewer in the best way. Another one is the Red Wedding. How much blander would the Red Wedding have been if we saw Tywin sending ravens back and forth with Lord Frey and the Boltons? So due to this, I will rank Tywin as a plotting mastermind. And yes, I'm giving him this title just because I just told you how we never see him plot. We only get to see his plots in action. Okay, this is the last one from Game of Thrones. It's just Game of Thrones is such a well-written show that I could have made a whole video on just the antagonists of Game of Thrones. If the devil had a human form, they'd call him Ramsay Snow. Both in the book and in the show, Ramsay is a menace. In the show, we see him torture an absolutely despised character in such a brutal way that not only do we feel bad, we start cheering for him. Ramsay's way of manipulating Theon, who gives him information that becomes crucial for Ramsay, is genius. But it seems that it wasn't even Ramsay's intention. He was just breaking Theon for his enjoyment. His scene with Ramsay Bolton, him talking about,
I flayed him living, along with his wife and brother. Made his son watch.
Ramsay is not impulsive like Joffrey. He is just as sadistic, if not more, but in some way Ramsay is also very intelligent, as seen in the Battle of the Bastards.
No, you have to run, remember? Those are the rules.
Ramsay Snow is the visual representation of psychopathy. Even if he'd never said a single word, the acting and the writing of the character perfectly encompasses it. In the book, Ramsay is Satan. When he captures Reek, not only does he castrate him, he skins his fingers and crushes his teeth. Walter White in the show Breaking Bad is a masterpiece in exploring the way that power can corrupt someone. In the span of the show, we see how a chemistry teacher can devolve into cold-blooded murder. We see how even when dealing with evil, it doesn't excuse one's descent into evil in response.
You can't keep getting away with it!
With Walter, we can see how seamless the transition from good guy to evil can be. A bad example of this is going back to Game of Thrones. God. I know I said I'm done with Game of Thrones, but this is the best example I can think of. Daenerys' move from savior or messiah into absolute chaos. We see her for 6 seasons standing up for the poor and the marginalized, and then in the last season we just out of nowhere see her start burning down a surrendered King's Landing. You can legit pinpoint the exact moment she turns from messiah to an evil queen. But with Walter, most people will still be cheering for him until the last moment of the show. And only then, if they pay attention, they can come to the realization of who they were cheering for. And some more casual viewers still remain fans of Walter White.
You're goddamn right.
We see Walter constantly having to act from the back foot. So in our subconscious, it makes us think he's just reacting. Get diagnosed with cancer, become a drug dealer to leave some money for the family. Get stood up while cooking meth, kill them both. Jesse's girlfriend is moving Jesse away from him, let her die. The dealers were gonna kill Jesse, run them over and kill them. Gale was gonna take over the cooking, so I'll be no use to Gus, kill Gale. Gus is gonna kill me, kill Gus. During the show, because the show is very well written, you don't really realize this. You're engaged in the story. There's certain scenes where you can see transformations of Walter.
I am the one who knocks.
But not like Daenerys. Antagonist/protagonist is what I would grade Walter White. And you might be thinking, why? Well, because I say so. It's time now for mine, and I'm sure many of your favorite characters. Hans Landa. Now, I'm not gonna really pronounce his name how you're supposed to.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
But of course it's Hans Landa.
That's a bingo!
Though I'm afraid that I can't do him justice in a scene description, so I'll try and do a scene analysis to my best abilities. We start off with the sound of an axe repeatedly hitting a log. He's not cutting the tree down or splitting wood. It's almost as if he's punching the tree. It kind of reminds me of the scene in The Witch where the father feels powerless to the environment, and day in, day out we see him splitting wood, which in the end will eventually come to crush him with a little help from Black Phillip. Then the scene is interrupted by Hans Landa. We see our protagonist ponder and prepare for the moment, showcasing the weight of the moment and the fear in the father's eyes. But upon Landa's arrival, our expectations are subverted. From the terror in the man's and his family's face, we were expecting someone of no nonsense and cruel. But Landa comes in politely, first asking his soldiers if they are on the right property, and then double checking by asking Padit if he is on the right property. We see Landa reach out with his hand from afar, gesturing that he is here for a friendly matter. He invites himself inside his house, but again in a polite manner. After entering the home, he greets the family members, and after being offered wine, he opts out for milk since it's a dairy farm. We still haven't seen anything unreasonable from Landa, but just from the reactions around him, it leaves an unsettling feeling in the air. We see Padit ask for permission to smoke his pipe to try and calm his nerves. We continue with the conversation, with Landa leading, but nothing that might indicate distrust in the farmer from Landa. Then he asks for permission to light up his own pipe. Then he pulls out a Sherlock Holmes-esque, comically large pipe, which he also uses to space out his sentences, which in turn adds an enormous amount of suspense, as he mentions that his house will be searched by his soldiers. Then we get these two masterpieces of shots, where we get two exact same pushing shots on Landa and Padit, but with complete different meanings. We see Landa's demeanor change as the camera moves forward, making him in some way feel bigger, scarier. Then we have Padit. It gives the exact opposite feeling. It feels claustrophobic, like the walls are closing in, and is getting hard to breathe. And then all it takes from Landa is asking.
Point out to me the areas where they're hiding.
And Padit caves in. He gives them up. Landa orders his soldiers to shoot the floor under which they are hiding. But the girl from the family makes it out and starts running in an open field. Then we see Landa pull his gun out and point it at the girl. And then, until we meet again. 20 minutes of seat-gripping suspense from an almost purely dialogue scene. Tarantino, the writer and director of the movie, is well known for the tension he can generate in his movies by allowing scenes to drag on to generate suspense. For this reason, I have to place Hans Landa in S tier. Okay, I guess I could rank this one.